Welcome to NEC's Cutting Edge Playhouse, where we have the pleasure of interviewing our four finalists. This segment, we are speaking with Rajendra Ramoon Maharaj, writer of I Don't Have a Gun, Stop Shooting. We are so happy to have you here, Mr. Rajendra Ramoon Maharaj. Tell us a little bit about yourself, the play, and a logline.
Well, I'm thrilled to be with you. I am Rajendra Ramoon Maharaj. I'm currently the first producing artistic director of color here at American Stage. I am an activist, an artist, and administrator. My work focuses mostly in documentary theater, telling stories about Black and brown bodies living through history, both past, present, and future. And my play, I Don't Have a Gun, Stop Shooting, an American Tragedy, gets its title from the final words of Michael Brown. And my play is a story that tells bearing witness to the barbarity, the humanity, and the violence of two historic moments that birthed the current Black Lives Matter movement, the murders of Trayvon Martin and the mother Emanuel 9. This is their story of love, joy, hope, and faith, and loss against a world that only sees the headlines.
And what a beautiful play it is. I mean, it's just truly such a beautiful weave of poetry and spoken word, and the story is just amazing.
Thank you, Queen.
No, you're welcome. Like, you wrote it. Like, I just, reading it, I was like, oh my God, this is just a beautiful compilation that you have. So why this story? Why did you write this story?
Well, I was so affected as an activist, as an artist, as a person of color by the murder of Trayvon Martin. It really struck me the similarities between Emmett Till and his brutal murder. And then also being a person of great faith, I was crippled by the Mother Emanuel shooting. And both times when President Obama addressed the nation, I just remember feeling so much peace, seeing this regal Black man, our first Black president, offering the similarities in his own journey. And it just struck me in the current movement with the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and George Arbery. It just felt like it was time for me to do something. And these voices would not stop speaking to me. They just kept over and over, just crying out. I would have dreams. I'd walk down the street. I'd be in church, and I just kept hearing their voices. So, the ancestors guide us, and that's what led me to put, pen to paper.
So that's really, you're speaking to why you, though, right? Why are you designated or assigned by the ancestors to write the story? So I understand you also did a lot of research, and you have some other ties to the people that are in the story. So tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. As a documentary theater maker, part of my journey in my artistry and my craft is to speak to people who are connected to the storylines. And so I had the pleasure of meeting Sabrina Fulton, Trayvon Martin's mother, and spending time with her, and Tracy Martin, his father. And I have to tell you, the love they have for their child, and being able to just spend time and learn about Trayvon and put, a human face beyond the headlines. It was just incredible. And so I was compelled to, tell this story and use Obama's words and use the tradition of libation and Sankofa to uplift this narrative in Act 1. And in Act 2, I had the pleasure of going and meeting the survivors of the Mother Emanuel shooting, particularly Pastor Pickney's wife, and to be able to speak with her and for her to see the work and say thank you. It was just a powerful reminder that God and the ancestors have put me on the right path as a storyteller.
Did you feel changed in any way after speaking with them and really getting more in-depth information, more in-depth emotional journey of the characters? Did that shift maybe what you had started with your writing, and then did it change after actually really like speaking to them?
Yeah, I mean, of course it shifted, because what was so amazing was there was the headlines and there was the sound bites on CNN and MSNBC, but then to sit and to say, my child liked this, and we went to church because church gave us this in our souls, and to be able to bear witness, as one of my heroes, James Baldwin, says, the duty of the artist is to bear witness and then to take that witness and share it with the world. And so to be able to do that, and I'm still growing every time the play is read, every time I get to, be in the presence of these wonderful humans. It just makes me a better human being. It makes me a better citizen. It makes me realize once again why we love the power of theater and the power of the empty space. And as Black people and brown people, the responsibilities we have to uplift and tell these stories right now. It's an exciting moment as an artist to know that your purpose and your talent line up. And with opportunities like the Negro Ensemble Company are giving me and so many other brown and Black artists, it's a dream come true.
So what inspired you to be a writer, and what was that moment like?
Well, for me, I always believe that the ancestors speak to you, and your ancestors aren't just, floating around. They're like walking among you. And I had the pleasure of meeting August Wilson. And August Wilson was walking. We were at New Federal Theater seeing a show, and Woody King Jr. said, hey, August needs to get some cigarettes, go walk with him to the bodega. And I walked with August Wilson, and, he was so fascinating and so charming. And at the end of it, he said, you should be a writer. You should write plays. You're interesting. And I was like, no, I'm a director. I'm a choreographer. I'm going to be an artistic director. And he said, listen, young man, when the ancestors take a hold of you, they will not let go, and you will tell the story. And he walked away, and I remember being like, oh, I don't know. And then literally months later, I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas, directing a revival of Dreamgirls. I have a day off, and I go to Little Rock Central High School, and I had a Sankofa moment. I had never been there. I had never known the story except for a little paragraph in Black History Month in my high school. And I started seeing pictures. I started hearing voices. I started sweating. I started crying. And I was like, what is happening to me? And so my grandmother always told me things come in threes. So that was the first sign. And then about 2 weeks later, I'm watching Oprah, and she's interviewing the Little Rock Nine, the second sign. And the third sign, opening night of the show, the managing director and the producing artist are say, hey, Rajendra, there are 3 people who'd like to meet you. Would you mind coming over and saying hello to them? I said, absolutely. And who are they? 3 of the Little Rock Nine: Elizabeth Eckford, Minnie Jean Brown, and Thelma Mothershed. And so for me, I had never written a play before, but the ancestors would not let me go. And so it began a 13-year journey that led us off Broadway to a New York Times Critics Pick, to the cover of the American Theater magazine, to having the Little Rock Nine be my mentors, my friends, and being able to tell their story, and being the only playwright in the history of the American theater to interview all 9 of them and tell their story.
Tell us a little bit about what it was like when you got a call that you were one of the 4 winners of the Negro Ensemble Cutting Edge Emerging Playwright Winners Competition.
I was so happy. I ran out of my office. I'm here in St. Pete's, and I was in the street screaming. It was the same scream I gave when Obama won. I was like, yes. It was like, yes, because I knew for me that everything my grandmother had poured into me over the years and all the sacrifices that so many of my teachers and mentors had made was in this phone call, because what I've always wanted to be was seen, heard, and respected by my people. And you cannot be a Black or brown American theater artist, activist, administrator, and not acknowledge in your journey that the Negro Ensemble Company played a part in it. And so for me, it was a full circle moment, and I am still floating, and I am still dancing, and I'm just so proud and humbled to be one of the four. And I know that I come as one of the four, but we represent thousands and thousands of artists who have benefited from the Negro Ensemble Company. It's so funny because for me, I'm such a theater nerd, and to know the history of what the Negro Ensemble Company has given the world and how it's affected every single artist, both black and white, but particularly brown and black artists. I have a really short story that I'd love to share. I was the former artistic director of Freedom Theater in Philadelphia. And I was sitting in the lobby one day, and I had the pleasure of meeting Charles Fuller's son. And he said to me, Rajendra, do you realize when my dad got the call that he had won the Pulitzer from his production of Soldier's Play with the Negro Ensemble Company, he was standing right here in this hallway. And I'm getting chills right now, just remembering and feeling that he said, my dad got the call and he got misty, and he couldn't believe that this little play that started and went through the Negro Ensemble would be winning the Pulitzer, and just having a recent revival last season at the Roundabout, and just knowing that this was going to change the course and open the door for so many Black artists, so many Black playwrights, so many Black directors and actors and administrators who would be seen. And the Negro Ensemble has been that. They have always been the place where people like myself, people who come from humble beginnings, who believe in the power of our stories and the regalness and the richness that we have given to the world theater. You've always been the place where we can stand strong and know that we have home.
I got chills too, just like you have really been not only inspired, but you seem to have been, like chosen. Like it's like you keep trying to go in that wrong direction, brother. We're gonna just keep steering you in the right direction. So from your mom to now, when you met August Wilson, like so you didn't even ask him like any like question about like what it was like to be this famous playwright and have plays all over the world. Like, did you not ask him something that you would want to ask him now if he was standing right next to you again right now?
Well, what was so cool about meeting Mr. Wilson was just that he was so interested in me. He was so interested. He's like, wow, you have Indian blood, and your father's through Trinidad and your mother's from Haiti through the Bahamas, and you are so connected to the movement, and it was fascinating just to learn. And with me, obviously I know who he is and what he has given to the world. But I also was just interested in seeing how he moved as a human being in space, and like picked up his cigarettes and just was like a regular Joe. And it kind of reminded me to always stay humble, to always be, knowing that my grandmother, who was a domestic, worked so that I could have these opportunities. And I know that the founders of the Negro Ensemble, I know the Charles Fullers, I know the Esther Rolls, I know all these great artists. I stand on their shoulders. They are not gone because I am here and I am working, and a generation of Black artists and activists are working because they were the door that we are able to walk through every day.
What does your family think about your writing and the journey?
It's funny being Caribbean. The only point of reference for my family in the theater was Sidney Poitier or Harry Belafonte, which are two great Americans, great heroes, great activists. But they're so proud of me. And I hope if I can encourage anyone, particularly those artists who come from families where you have the brother who's a doctor or a sister who's a teacher, and they see those only as the opportunities, particularly from the Caribbean, an immigrant experience and the opportunity of the American dream. But the arts has such a place and a history in all of our cultures. And I am just my tests in life, which I've had many, like all of us do, have become my testimony, because here I sit in St. Pete's, Florida, as the first Black person ever in the history of the state to run a multi-million-dollar regional theater. not just American stage, but the state of Florida. And so I say, to God be the glory, and thank you, ancestors, because I know, particularly here in Florida, I am 200 miles away from where Trayvon Martin was murdered. I know that this is a place where our ancestors marched, bled, so that I could have this opportunity. And I know that there are going to be little Rajendras and little Michelles who will grow up and be able to know it's possible because I was here, because you were there, because as I just found out recently, that Angela Bassett was born and raised here, and so there's just this connective tissue. If we take the time to breathe in and really take the time to learn our history and our ancestors, like the Negro Ensemble Company, who were literally on the battlefields. And now we get the pleasure to be able to sit in the castles that they had to, break down the doors to.
One of the things I know we talked about, I love that while you are the first, right, you have a feeling towards being the first.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, to quote my favorite president, Barack Obama, when asked that question, I wish I was the 101st, because there were so many people who before me were more talented, who were more passionate, who might have had more to do and say in the world, but because of the social norms, being in the South at a time where Black and brown artists were limited to the back door or the crow's nest, the balcony, they were not able to. But they didn't stop praying, they didn't stop marching, they didn't stop doing their work. And because they did, they literally created a runway that I could see as I approach and start my tenure here at American Stage. It does not ever fall short on me that I have benefited in my career and my life through the pain and suffering of so many who came before me, who look like me. And I always hold them close in my heart. And I literally speak their names in my work. And that's why with this piece, I can literally drive to where Trayvon was murdered and feel his energy and feel in many ways him saying to me, run on, run on, run on.
Once you, in the process of writing the play that you submitted, you did your research, you had some interviews, and once the play was done, did you still continue to have contact with the Martins
And the survivors of the Mother Manual? Absolutely. And, I'm just a big supporter of the charitable work that both of Trayvon's parents do. They do amazing mentoring now and work for mothers and fathers, particularly of color, who are grieving. And unfortunately, this happens every day and it doesn't always make the headlines. And then, of course, with Mother Manual, I'm here in Florida and I connect with many AMEs. And, it's so stark, the contradictions between what we as brown and Black people have to endure. And when our counterparts, particularly white counterparts, when they go through the same struggle, just how the press can portray or uplifts narratives. And so for me, I have used the theater as my lightning rod for social change, as the rock in which I will continue to scream some days and shout and some days whisper our stories. Because when you say Black Lives Matter, you're not just talking about the ones that have been passed on and have been brutally murdered or sacrificed in the movement. We're talking about the ones that are yet unborn. And that's who I'm writing for. So you know what people have gone through so that you value your life and you use your life to its fullest capacity. Those were instilled in me by my grandmother. Those were instilled in me by the Negro Ensemble Company. Those were instilled in me by Crossroads Theater and New Freedom Theater, and there's so many great people who poured their energy and dreams, realized and deferred, into me. So I am living my purpose right now. And I am so excited to have American Stage, myself, be connected to the historic Negro Ensemble Company. And you've earned that. You are historic because you are part of a rich past, present, and you're still creating a new future for Black and brown storytellers.
Well, I want to thank you for your time and your patience. And I also want to say that you are special and you are amazing. And we are so excited and we are just enamored to have you as part of this legacy and as being selected out of the four writers. We can't wait for you guys to all meet each other. You're all wonderfully exciting. You come from wonderful different backgrounds. We have men and women, so we are so excited.
You know, I think that we have an opportunity right now in the world to be able to tell these stories and not just wait. Sometimes there's this misnomer that when history happens right now, oh, we have to wait a few years to tell it. I'm encouraging brown and black storytellers in all form. Tell our stories now. Be bold enough and know when you have doubt or fear that there are places like the Negro Ensemble Company that have literally carved out a space for you to dream without a ceiling. That's what I want people to know.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you again, and we will see you next time as we learn about our wonderful, wonderful playwrights. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.